This is just a quick update on my current situation. Recently, I haven't been feeling too well and, coupled with being busy at work, I haven't had much time to focus on producing content for YouTube. That said, I have no intention to stop making YouTube videos even if it does mean that I'll only be producing one video a week for a while. In any case, once I get better, I'll be back to making videos at a regular rate again. For quite some time now, I've been planning to put together a Patreon or Kickstarter account so I can ask for donations from more generous viewers out there. I also have a Twitter but haven't gotten around to optimizing it yet. There's actually a lot I want to do but just don't have the time to actually get things into gear as there are a lot of things I must prioritize first in this ongoing pandemic. If you've enjoyed my content so far, please feel free to do the following. Subscribe to my channel, click the bell to turn on notifications, like my videos, share my videos. If there's anything you'd like to ask or would like to share your opinion, please comment down below or reach out to me through my Facebook page. And now, without further ado, what are the roles of tabletop role-playing? A quick glimpse at how role-playing works on the tabletop for newbies. So, just what does tabletop role-playing mean? If you're watching this could mean one of multiple things. 1. You are new to the idea of tabletop role-playing and would like to know more. 2. You enjoy my content and would like to see where this is actually going. 3. We know each other personally and you're just watching this to show your support. 4. You're one of my haters and you're here to see what the fuss is all about. In any case, and no matter which of the categories above you belong to, welcome to another episode of Natural Juan. This time around we're going to take a brief look back at the concept of tabletop role-playing and giving a little more information about what it is and how it's done for all the newbies out there. For some time now there have been people who have been asking just what are the tabletop RPG books I'm so crazy about and how are they even actually played. I already summed most of this up on my video about what is tabletop role-playing, but this time, we're going to take a deeper look into how it actually works. In What is Tabletop Role-Playing, I told people a bit about tabletop role-playing games, but now, I'm going to discuss how it all goes together. First though, let's answer the question above. Tabletop role-playing, to put it simply, is more or less just an extra complicated board game. You can treat it like a game of chess wherein you are your own chess pieces. Yes, that means you are either the knight, bishop, or king in your own game and you actually live and interact with all the other pieces. There are those, however, who eschew a board or table entirely and either play the game on apps like Fantasy Grounds, Roll20, or Google Spreadsheets, or simply have everything take place in their imaginations, which is sometimes called the mind's eye. What are the roles in tabletop role-playing? There are only 2 roles when it comes to tabletop role-playing and they are the following. The player or PCs, the game master or GM. What does it mean to be a player character? Player characters, sometimes called a plethora of other things like PCs, adventurers, actors, and whatnot, are obviously the players of the game. These are simply the people who want to interact with a given world as heroes or warriors. Player characters can be a wide variety of things from mighty soldiers armed with swords, sneaky vigilantes who attack with bows, powerful sorcerers who use magic to assail their foes, or handsome daredevils whose wit and humor can lay low his enemies. Depending on the game even, player characters can choose to be futuristic combatants armed with powered armor like Iron Man of the Avengers, cyborg lawmen like RoboCop, or a captain of a vast spaceship like Captain Kirk of Star Trek. The list goes on, and there are even games where you can be something completely silly, such as an animate appliance like a lampshade or a washing machine. Different players have different personalities, and this is reflective of their player characters in the actual game. There are almost an infinite number of types of players you'll run into, but they usually lean towards one archetype or another. Given that tabletop role-playing is mainly comprised of just bits of lore or story, mathematical systems, and, most importantly, the player's imaginations, it isn't surprising that players will mainly focus on one aspect of the game. These are the power gamer, the role player, and the lore junkie. What is a power gamer? The power gamer is often interested in the mechanical aspect of the game. More often than not, power gamers are usually computer, console, or mobile gamers who enjoy combat and skill challenges in the game. While they are often interested in the game in general, they are less concerned about what kind of people live in it and what role they play. They just prefer to know who are the most powerful enemies and what rewards do they get after killing them. That said, as with all things about tabletop role-playing, power gamers fill the niche of much-needed combatants in a game. After all, you need someone to fight the bad guys, be they roadside bandits, villainous nobles, or ravenous dragons. You can work with a power gamer so that he more or less serves as the group's muscle in a given situation and can shine when fights begin, as they are usually geared towards combat. What is a role player? A role player is often a player most vested in the game's story and setting. Unlike the power gamer, most role players tend to be readers or avid consumers of films, TV shows, and other media. They are the most interested in becoming a character in the game's setting rather than simply an outsider thrown into a given situation. They prefer social interactions in the game, such as being a princess in a court of nobles, seeking power for herself through wit and guile rather than strength and combat capability. Role players are the people to talk to when simply clobbering a problem isn't enough or might even make things worse for everyone. They are best reserved for social situations wherein a combination of diplomacy, deception, and intimidation are better suited than blades and arrows. Not all monsters need to be slain after all, and, in certain cases, it's a lot easier and more beneficial to get them on your side. What is a lore junkie? A lore junkie is a player who is most interested in the game's story and what's actually going on in it. These people, of which I am actually a part of, are those most interested in the setting's history. Who are the current people in power, and how has all of that affected society as it is known today? They are also the most interested in learning more about the game world around them and seeking knowledge that has been hidden for one reason or another. Players of this sort often gravitate towards the role of studious wizards or curious investigators. Oftentimes, they are the most skilled when it comes to finding and using information in the game setting, be they books of forbidden knowledge or encoded government databases. While some builds are either strong enough to hold their own in combat or wily enough to participate in social situations, this is not always the case, and they may need help from other players when they forget to take combat or social options for their character. What does it mean to be a game master? Called a GM for short and called a lot of other things in other games such as Keeper in Call of Cthulhu, Dungeon Master or DM in Dungeons & Dragons, Storyteller in games by White Wolf, and Game Host in Sanguine Games, the Game Master is in charge of preparing a game for player characters. They are the ones who make the challenges for players to overcome, thicken the plot story-wise, and control the many monsters and villains the player characters must face. They play the role of referee, team manager, and the opposing team all rolled into one. The main duties of a Game Master are control the enemies the player characters must fight, be it in combat or social interaction, set up the many challenges to be overcome such as traps, hindrances, or problems, and be the final arbiter in how rules work and how they apply to a game. Important notes on game mastering. With very few exceptions, there can only be one game master for the sake of simplicity and peace. A game master should have a good grasp of the game setting and rules. He should know who's who in that world and what works and what doesn't work inside it. It is highly recommended that the GM read up on the game's books beforehand. The game is not about the game master. The game is actually about the player characters, and it is the game master's job to make a game world for them that is both fun and exciting. Being a game master is the most rewarding, but also the most challenging part of the game. For very young players, it is highly recommended that your game master be a responsible or experienced adult to avoid problems that may crop up, such as house rules and loot drama. Tabletop role-playing games for beginners. Again, as I mentioned above, this video is for beginners. People who are new to the concept of tabletop role-playing games and might not even know how to begin. This part here is a way for them to smoothen out the game so it isn't as clumsy as the way I first played it. It is divided into the 4 following steps. Step 1. Select a game. It is very important to choose just what kind of game you want to play. You can't play a science fiction game and expect to find a unicorn in it, or play a medieval fantasy game and expect to find a spaceship somewhere. You must make it clear from the beginning just what kind of game you're going to play, and, unless you want something different, try to stick with the game's genre and convention. To make things easier, here's a rundown of games and what to expect in them. Fantasy, Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, Exalted, and Palladium Fantasy. Horror, Call of Cthulhu, World of Darkness, Dresden Files, Science Fiction, Starfinder, Warhammer 40,000 Roleplay, Shadowrun, Superhero, Mutants and Masterminds, Scion. Step 2. Get materials. Be sure you have your materials close on hand. If you live in the Philippines like me and don't have access to the many kinds of dice you'll find at stores and whatnot, you can easily download dice apps on your PC or smartphone. For battle maps, you can use graphing paper or graphing notebooks. Just be sure you have the rule books though, as that will probably be the most important part of the game. Step 3. Select roles and create characters. First off, you'll need to select a game master for your game. Once that's done, it's time to create or select the kind of characters that will be populating your game. As a pro tip, if you're beginners, it is probably best to select pre-gen or pre-generated characters to play as. Character creation is often a completely different game in and of itself and is better settled beforehand, as most games tend to offer a multitude of options for creating a character. And that's just for the normal players that might play your game. I haven't gotten to the players who go absolutely crazy in character creation, who'll take hours just to decide on a single trait to add to their character. Another pro tip is that if your players want some customization in their game, make them take a pre-gen character but allow them to customize it as they please. For instance, the pre-gen character might have a slingshot but the player wants to replace it with a bow. The list goes on. Step 4. Play the game. Need I say more? Just don't forget what I said above and make sure you have the rulebook and the materials you need. End note. Anyway, as I said earlier, if you like my content, please subscribe to my channel and hit that bell for notifications. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it with others. Anyway, this is Natural Juan bidding you all a good one and see you in the next video.